Good morning again. Now this video I am going to tell you the attachment of muscles, both origin as well as insertion. Then I will tell you the attachment of ligament and articular capsule of the shoulder joint and the elbow joints. And then I will tell you about its ossification. Along with the blood vessels and nerves which are in relation to these bones. Okay, so I begin with the attachment, muscular attachment. This is the upper end of the humerus, and upper end of the humerus shows the presence of a lesser tubercle and a greater tubercle. If you trace the surface onto the top of the lesser tubercle, there is a facet like structure. Okay, a smooth area is seen, and similarly there are three facets are seen onto the upper surface of the greater tubercle, and they give attachment to the tendon of important muscles which ultimately forms what is called as the rotator cuff of shoulder joint. So let us see here on the top of the lesser tubercle to this area there is the attachment of the muscle called as the subscapularis muscle, right? We have seen in the scapula from the ventral or costal surface of this. Let us see the superior surface of the greater tubercle. And there are three again attachment of the tendons, okay, insertion. It is the supraspinatus, then in the middle is the infraspinatus, and then lastly here onto the posterior aspect of the greater tubercle, there is the third muscle, that is the teres minor. So there is supraspinatus, infraspinatus, and teres minor. Supra, infra, and teres. Okay, these are the three muscles which are attached onto the top of the greater tubercle and subscapularis onto the lesser tubercle. Now these four muscles they form. When they come towards the shoulder joint for attachment, they blend with the capsule of the shoulder joint, and they provide the strength to the shoulder, to the capsule of the shoulder joint, and they surround the shoulder joint for all around, except from the inferior aspect and medial aspect, they surround it. This four muscles, thus they form what is called as the rotator cuff. This is the rotator cuff, and I will show you the diagram of the rotator cuff from the Atlas of Thieme. Okay, I have already said that I am acknowledging with thanks this Thieme Atlas from where I am showing you this diagram. Let us see. Yes, it is here. You can see here that this is the subscapularis muscle going and getting attachment onto the lesser tubercle here. Okay, so this is the subscapularis, then a part of the supraspinatus muscle you can see here, okay, which is going towards the greater tubercle. See here, this muscle here, this is the supraspinatus, this is the infraspinatus, and this muscle is teres minor. So all three they are attached onto the top of, and this teres minor on posterior aspect of the greater tubercle. Now all these four muscles they form a rotator cuff which can be seen clearly in this diagram here. You can see from here the anterior aspect subscapularis, from the top supraspinatus, from behind the infraspinatus, and this muscle is the teres minor. Thus they are surrounding to the shoulder joint, fusing with the outer aspect of the articular capsule. So this is the rotator cuff. Coming back to the upper end of the humerus, now in between the two tubercle, lesser and greater tubercle, there is a groove which we have defined it as the bicipital groove, and in this groove lies the long head of the biceps, the tendon of origin, long head of the bicep. The origin we have already discussed from supraglenoid tubercle on the scapula. Right, after this origin, let us come to the bicipital groove, lips of the bicipital groove. Here is again insertion, Now this ridge of the lateral lip of the bicipital groove will give attachment to a strong tendon that is of pectoralis major, okay, the pectoralis major muscle. And then the medial lip will give insertion to the muscle called as teres major, okay, which what we saw was the teres minor on the greater tubercle, okay, but this muscle is teres major muscle, okay, which takes origin from scapula, okay. I have shown you the origin of teres major onto the scapula, right. And then on the floor of this bicipital groove, you can see this floor where I am moving my finger, there is the attachment of the third long muscle, what is called as the latissimus dorsi. So there are three muscles which are attached in relation to the lip and to the floor of the bicipital groove, okay. Then if you will see the shaft, if we move to the shaft, then on the shaft, as I had shown you in the previous video, the presence of a roughening onto the lateral aspect of the almost to the middle of the shaft, where there was a V-shaped roughening, and this is the attachment of the tendon of the deltoid muscle, okay. So this is the insertion of the deltoid. Now just opposite to the insertion of deltoid, what you have seen here, there was another roughening on the same level but on the medial border, okay, and that is for the insertion of the coracobrachialis muscle, okay. Let me see if I can show you from the atlas the attachment of the deltoid, and if I will find that for the coracobrachialis muscle, okay. Just a minute, I am searching these diagrams, okay, just a minute. So the attachment of deltoid, yeah, this is the attachment of the deltoid muscle, you can see here. See, this is the lateral aspect of the humerus shaft, almost middle part, and this is that tendon of the deltoid muscle is attached onto the lateral aspect here. You can see in this diagram, seen from that of the anterior aspect, and that is seen from the posterior aspect where deltoid is covering to the shoulder joint. You can see in this diagram the whole shoulder joint is covered by this deltoid, that is from the lateral aspect, okay. If I will get the coracobrachialis attachment here, I will show you that also right here, okay. Now this is not here. Anyway, as soon as I will get it, I will show you the attachment of the coracobrachialis too. Now this, after this insertion of the coracobrachialis, we will go just onto the inferior end, I mean say not exactly, just onto the supracondylar ridge, and here we will see that there is the attachment of the on supracondylar ridge. I am marking it with the pink chalk, okay. This is the pronator teres, okay, and in front of the medial epicondyle there is the common origin of the flexor muscles, okay, common flexors of forearm, right. So these muscles, after taking origin, they are going into the forearm. This is pronator teres. And then on to the lateral epicondyle here at the same time, you see the origin of the common origin of the extensor muscles of the forearm. Okay, so this is called as the common extensor origin. And above this is the origin, just above this origin onto the sharp lateral supracondylar ridge here, you can see the attachment or origin of a muscle called as extensor carpi radialis longus. Extensor carpi radialis longus, and above that onto the supracondylar ridge a strong muscle takes origin from here, and that is called as brachioradialis. So two muscles are taking origin from lateral supracondylar ridge, brachioradialis and the extensor carpi radialis longus, and common origin of the extensors, and here on the medial epicondyle is the common origin of the flexor muscles, right. Then we go to the posterior aspect of the shaft, where there is a radial groove is present, and from this radial groove will pass the radial nerves and vessels which I will show you in a diagram. And then above this groove, there is a ridge present onto the posterior surface, okay, above this. And this is the site for the attachment of the lateral head of the tricep, where I am drawing here. So the lateral, just above the radial groove. See, this is the radial groove, and above this is the lateral head of triceps, and below the radial groove, on the posterior aspect, this is the site for the attachment of the medial head of the triceps. Okay, the posterior surface, okay, below the radial groove will give origin to that of the medial head of the triceps, right? Extending up to the just above the olecranon process, okay, above the ole. So this is the attachment of the medial head of the triceps muscle. Okay, then on the posterior aspect, there is a very small muscle attached onto the posterior surface, here posterior to the lateral epicondyle, and that is called as the anconeus, a very small muscle, feeble muscles, okay, which is seen on the posterior aspect of the elbow joint. Okay, now this completes the attachment of the muscle. Now I come to the attachment of the articular capsules as well as the ligaments. Now here the articular capsule of the shoulder joint is attached here close to the margin of the articular surface on the top, on the anterior aspect, onto the anterior aspect, and then from here, just by the side of the lesser tubercle, it goes down. Okay, it leaves the articular margin, covers a part of the neck. See, I am just covering a part of the neck. That means the capsule is lax here on the inferior aspect of the shoulder joint, and once again it comes to the articular margin. Okay, this is the attachment of the articular capsule. There may be a deficiency seen, there is a deficiency for the passage of the tendon of the biceps. Okay, tendon of long head of the biceps. Right. Then attachment on the inferior end of this articular capsule, it's very close to the margin, articular surface, okay, margin, and if you see it posteriorly, it goes very close to the olecranon fossa upper border, then it comes back to the near the trochlea, and then here on anterior aspect, it covers the this coronoid fossa as well as that of the radial fossa, and then pass towards the capitulum. Now, beside this, there are the ligaments which are attached onto the medial epicondyle and lateral, and they are the ligaments of the elbow joint. And this is the ulnar collateral ligament, is attached onto the medial epicondyle here, and the radial collateral ligament is attached onto the lateral epicondyle here. Okay, so these are the ligamentous attachment of the humerus. Now, after that, I will tell you about the relationship of the humerus with the nerves and blood vessel. See this book, and yesterday I also told you that is my book, and PP was the publisher of this book. Okay, see here, what are the nerves and vessels which are attached here? You will see that this is seen from the posterior aspect, and this is the radial nerve which gives a branch called as the axillary nerve or circumflex humeral nerve, and along with passing is the posterior circumflex humeral artery which anastomoses with the anterior circumflex humeral artery, branches from the third part of the axillary artery. Now see this radial nerve, okay, after giving this branch to the axillary nerve, it continues in the radial groove. So, and along with it is accompanied by a artery called as the profunda brachii artery. So, along with profunda brachii artery and the radial nerve, both they lie on posterior aspect of the humerus in the radial groove. And then it pierces, that means this radial nerve pierces the lateral intramuscular septum, and then it goes into the anterior compartment where it remains in the anterior compartment, which is part of which is shown here. So this is the same radial now. Just let me show you here. This is the same radial now is going. Similarly, one more nerve is very close to the bone, and that is ulnar nerve, and this lies on the posterior aspect of the medial epicondyle, which you can feel on the posterior surface of your medial epicondyle, and roll this nerve, okay, with the tip of your finger, pressing the medial epicondyle on the posterior aspect. So these are the nerves and vessels in relation to the humerus, okay, directly, very closely related to. Now I will tell you about the ossification of humerus. This is important, okay, being a long bone, usually it is asked. Now this humerus, it ossifies in cartilage, so it will show the endochondral ossification. The primary center for the shaft, it appears in the 8th week of intrauterine life, and it starts forming the bone, and the bone grows on towards both the end, upper end as well as the lower end from this primary center, and the bone which is formed by this will be called as diaphysis. Okay, now then after the birth of the baby, okay, then there will be in the first year of life, the secondary center for upper end will appear at first year, then for the greater tubercle on the 3rd year, and then for the lesser tubercle on the 5th year. So there are 3 secondary centers, okay, first year, 3rd year and the 5th year. These are the 3 secondary center which will after some time will unite, and then this will form the bone developed from secondary center, what is called as epiphysis, okay. Now epiphysis and diaphysis of upper end will remain separated from each other by epiphyseal cartilage, okay, epiphyseal cartilage. Let us see the other end. On the lower end also, there will be many centers which will appear. They are secondary center. First will appear into the lateral half of the pulley or the trochlear surface, and this is on 2nd year, and then this will appear on the 5th year, medial epicondyle. This is 5th year, the lateral epicondyle, 12th year, and the medial half of the trochlea on the 10th year. They will also fuse with each other after 12 years, and then they will form again the bone of lower end called as epiphysis, okay. Now this cartilaginous plate, epiphyseal plate, okay, cartilage, okay, they will remain separated from the diaphysis till the age of 18 years. Say for example, it is 18 years. And after 18 years, the both epiphyseal and diaphyseal centers, bone which was formed by primary and secondary, they will fuse here. And then after its fusion, there will be the fusion of the upper end, and that is by the end of the 20th year, okay. So tell me, which is the growing end? This was the center to appear first after the birth, okay, in first year of age, and it was to fuse with the secondary centers of the upper end by the end of 20. So the first to appear and last to fuse it is. So it is the growing end. The applied importance of this growing end lies is that in case of in a child, if there is an amputation has to made of the upper limb, since the upper end is growing and it will keep on growing till the age of 20 years, so the stump of the bone may grow, okay. So a sufficient soft tissue and skin should be kept here, and so that the stump of the bone can grow for a longer time without penetrating the skin and other soft tissue. This completes your bone humerus in 3 videos. Thank you.